Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Rim Live. Today, thank you, all my subscribers, supporters, everybody who's watching. Also, listen, if it's your first time, make sure to hit that like and a subscribe button. And also, there's a feature on there too that's called a super sticker, and you can send, a donation to help this channel grow. Now, today I have a special guest with us. He is a author, producer, actor. The guy does hit everything, and most importantly, he's a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I have with us today Blake Bess. Blake, welcome to the Horror Realm Live.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to come in on, man. Now, the reason I met you, man, I had Kevin on.
Yeah,
Freddy
Kevin
number two.
Radzinski. Yeah, he's a good buddy of
Radzinski.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Freddy number two,
Number two. Yeah, and he was telling me a lot about your book that you and Mitch did, which is called Behind the Screams, The Dream Masters Revealed.
That'd be this one.
Yes. Yep. I've started reading it. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So to tell my audience a little bit about the book.
Okay, so a little bit about the book. It's actually what had happened was, I figure that's a good way to start it. I was at a convention with Mick Strawn and a bunch of other Nightmare on Elm Street alumni. We were getting inducted into the Hall of Horror, so that's where we had all that happen. So in the midst of celebrating getting inducted for Razor's Edge, which is the Freddy Krueger origin novel that I wrote, we had joked while out having drinks and stuff and kind of just bullshitting around. Well, somebody should do a book on Nightmare 4, and I think you should be the guy to do it. And I was like, we're having drinks, eating dinner, just having fun. I'm like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Get some behind the scenes photos because I'm friends with all the cast and crew. And I was like, that'd be fun. We could just sit for months and call through pictures and all that. And I'll be damned if that whole remark didn't turn around and bite me right in the ass. So 2017 in December, right before the new year, I get a call at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm in bed. And my wife is sleeping next to me. So the fact that the phone rang, it was on silent, thank God, but it lit up and it started buzzing on the table. So I looked, I was like, what in the hell? Who's calling me at 11 o'clock? And I look and it says Mick Strawn. I said, okay, all right, I'll bite. I'll answer the phone. So I picked it up. Hello. Hey, Blake, this is Mick. I said, uh-huh. So you okay? What are you doing? I said, I'm in bed. What are you doing? Obviously not in bed, right? He said, no, I was just thinking, about that thing we talked about back in 2016 when we were inducted. I said, you mean the book on Nightmare 4? He said, yeah, I really want to write the book, because I worked on the set and I got to do effects, and I worked on 3 too, and then I worked on a season of this TV series, and actually started work on 5. I said, okay, yeah, so we could do something. He said, so what do you think about writing it with me? And I think just to get him off the phone so I could go back to bed, I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. First of the year, let's start it up and do it. Now, I did want to do it, but in the moment, I was like, why did he call me this late? I want to go back to sleep. I had just gotten to sleep, so I was startled out of sleep. I said, yeah, we'll do it. Okay, cool. Let's do this. Let's talk after the first of the year. Cool. Thanks for calling me. Yes, we'll do it. He's like, come up with a title. I was like, yeah, okay. All right, we'll do that. So hung up the phone and went to sleep. Well, a few days after New Year's, I get the call. It's really happening. And I was like, okay. So we were talking about, I said, behind the scenes, initially I wanted to call it Junkyards and Burn Scars, a making of a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, which I thought was pretty cool. But we settled on Behind the Screams because behind the scenes is what the book is about. But Behind the Screams made sense, ha ha ha, because it's a horror film, and that's what you do at a horror film is screams. So the subtitle to that is The Dream Masters Revealed, and I considered everyone that worked on the film, especially producers, directors, special effects, I consider them the real masters and the real unsung heroes of that. A lot of credit goes to the cast and stuff, and that's fine because they're all amazing. They're all friends of mine. They're all great, very talented actors and actresses. But a lot of people don't realize what goes into making a movie. As you know, I mean, I've made several and produced several, and it's not as easy as one would think, and it's certainly time consuming. So I thought, let's tell that story, what it's like to make the movie in the summer of 1988 when there's about to be a writer's strike and nobody can put their name on the script, and you're not sure because you can't, have a writer attached to it with the name on it, and you've got a series of 24 plus special effects sequences but very little script. So and then you get the director and you find out you have 9 to 11 weeks to get this thing shot.
Yeah.
Okay. So we we decided to do that, and of course, we talked to all of our, he talked to all of the people that he worked with, and of course, I'm friends with a lot of them as well. We talked to Robert, talked to Bob Shea, talked to Rachel Talalay, who is a producer and had been with Nightmare since the very beginning. And then we talked to the special effects artists. So, Nick Benson, William Forsh, Steve Johnson, the late great John Carl Beekler, Tom Loughton, um, mechanical effects, Peter Chesney. We talked to everyone all the way down to craft services. I mean, we wanted the
That's
complete
amazing.
experience of what it was like to work on that, And Robert, of course, did the very first chapter. And one of my favorite things about not only helping to co-author it, but getting to title some of the chapters, because several of them are very weird. And one of them is about Tuesday night being, on that sequence on the beach. So I decided to title that chapter "Life's a Beach and Then You Die." And then I did a chapter called Kung Fu Fighting, which obviously covers Rick's fight with the invisible Freddy.
Yes.
And then Teacher's Pet, so that's Sheila, of course, in the classroom when she gets the life sucked out of her. And then there was a few others, Through the Looking Glass, and Mick came up with some. And I took a line from the film for chapter 10, Give a Bug a Break, when that whole sequence in the beginning when Debbie's
Ooh.
that
Yeah.
chip that has the roach on it. And just to kind of show off, that is sort of a lot of the photos we went through, thousands of them, stuff that was on set, Polaroids, stuff the actors and actresses took on how this stuff was done. So we decided to put those in there too. And some fan
And that's
art,
what's yeah,
you know.
and that's what's amazing about the book. It has, actual photographs from the actual set, from the cast and crew.
Oh yeah, and then of course you've got there's so many different people that were involved. Not a lot of people know this, but uh Todd Masters worked on some of Nightmare 4's effects, and he had an effects artist with him that was a sculptor and a puppeteer. His name was Adam Jones. Now he worked on Nightmare 4, then he went on to do Jurassic Park. And then after that, he still does those things, but he decided to join a band called Tool, and he plays guitar for Tool, and
Ooh,
he's been with them since the very beginning. So
wow.
it's funny how music and horror all circle back in this. And then of course you've got Rennie
Definitely
Harlan,
tie
who
in.
went on to do, Cliffhanger, Die Hard 2, Deep Blue Sea, and that's just the ones I can think of right now.
Huge blockbusters. Huge blockbusters.
Oh, absolutely huge blockbusters. And this kind of is a funny photo. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the mood of what it was like to. Let me move that back.
Right
Yeah,
there.
so you're like the guy in a stunt mask. It's a latex mask, and he's giving the middle finger to the camera
Nice.
with Moto Hata in the background there. But yeah, there was it was just an incredible experience. It took 7 months to do this, and I kept the worst hours known to man. I kept vampire hours. Like I would get up and start this at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then work till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And sometimes I had to call across the country. Sometimes I had to call across the world. I had a special effects artist who left the U.S. and lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. So I had to make a call over to Scotland.
Whoa.
Which is funny, again, because I just finished Fathom, which is a book on the Loch Ness Monster. So I was like, there's a reason that I was supposed to do
All
this.
coming together. It's all
Full circle,
it's all
man.
comes-
And I
yeah.
was like, why not? So we sat down and we did it, and then we put the book out, and the book went like gangbusters. I mean, I'm this is actually the last copy that I have. I have sold out of every other copy. We did one run just to see how it would go. And yeah, so I stay about half sold out of all the bestsellers I have. So I'm just like, I talked to my agent. I said, we got to get more books here, you know, And my
especially
agent's
after
like,
this
I know it's on the list. It's on
interview.
the list, Blake. Yeah. Okay.
Especially after this interview. Now, one
Right.
thing most people don't know about the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. The Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I was a huge fan. As you know, you're a huge super fan as well. But those movies were made big. They made way over their budget. They were big $1 million films that they made money, but they were made for such a shoestring low budget.
They were. People seem to forget that, and oftentimes that's the case with a lot of the what I call the second golden age of horror films. So right through the '70s up through the '90s, a lot of those movies were made for pennies on the dollar. I mean, Nightmare One cost $1,800,000 to make, which is nothing. I mean, whereas you've got a film like Lord of the Rings, which is like $96 million budget, or like Justice League, or any of these with $300 million budgets. So you've got Nightmare Four. They ended up costing them about $6.5–7 million to make, which is nothing. That kind of money was basically just thrown away, at all the effects for like Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
For us, that would barely cover some explosions and some effects on Indiana Jones. So you're talking pennies on the dollar here, and Mick went way over budget. Originally, his original production design budget for that film was $180,000. He said, "I had to have a meeting with Rachel because I spent $1 million." I said, "Do what? You had $180,000 and you spent $1 million?" He said, "Yeah, but they knew I had good ideas and we had a good crew. So, and they told him, they said, keep cutting him checks. As long as the ideas are coming, keep cutting him checks." I was like, that is my kind of filmmaking. Let's go way the hell over budget.
and just
Let's
like fuck
let's
it,
let's get
let's just
work
do
on
it.
no sleep, eating a steady diet of shitty, cold, gelatinous pizza from the takeout boxes, Cheetos, fucking Coca-Cola, coffee, French fries, and hope.
Yep.
Let's get it made. Let's do this damn thing. So they did, and there's a lot. I mean, and Kevin went into some of it. There's a lot of things that happened on the set of that film that actually went very badly. So one thing he talked about
Yeah.
was the giant torso at the end. So a good friend of mine, Bill Forsh, was working with XFX. That's Steve Johnson's company, legendary Steve Johnson, responsible for Slimer from the Ghostbusters, and
Hmm.
worked on Blade, and it just, again, his reputation preceded him. Gray Stoke, the Legend of Tarzan, American Werewolf in London. He decides he's going to get his team together, and they're going to do a head that's split so you could show Freddy, Robert England, inside the makeup and watching it kind of explode, and watching the souls kind of fight their way out of him,
Which is a cool effect.
So, yeah, so full effects. And we're talking like big time practical, full, no CGI. That shit was light years away for them. Um, and so he goes home after he gets the thing put together with the crew, decides to go home and get 2 or 3 hours of sleep so then he could come back and be on call for set. Because again, they're operating on 2 to 3 hours of sleep, psychotic schedule. Something is bound to fuck up, and
Correct.
something fucked up. So he left, and then he came back, and the head that he helped construct, that his team helped construct, was in pieces on the floor. And the effect person that did it was nowhere to be found. So he said, "Shit, what am I going to do?" This was part of the big that sequence. They were responsible for about, I want to say, 12 to 14 of the 20 plus effects on that film, and that was one of the big effects at the end. And they luckily pulled it together and got some stuff going and got it fixed. But then there was the giant torso that fell at the end. So inside there's a giant torso, and the sweater was designed by Philip Maldonado. So he was the set dresser and the one responsible for the Freddy Krueger sweaters on that film, the aging of them, and so on and so forth. They constructed this giant sweater, this 25-foot tall torso, and inside of it were full size people, because the way they shot it, it looked like it was a close up on Freddy's chest, and there were souls ripping through. There's actually a
Yeah.
sequence where a woman pushes her chest up through it, and there's men's arms pushing and kicking and
Hmm.
faces and biting, and then there's all kinds of other stuff. So what they did is they shot that, and it was a gag, because in reality, you have this giant torso and you've got these full size people in it, And one of the people in it was Roberto De Palma. He was an effects technician on the film. He got into like a veiny kind of skin suit, and then they got in there because the skin was it was foam latex, translucent with the light shining on it the right way. You could actually see the veins, and it looked like basically like Freddy was getting torn apart from the inside
Yeah.
out. So they get ready to start filming this, and they get some people in it. And up top is Michiko Tagawa. She was one of the XFX crew. She was, I don't know, around 5 foot tall. And she's up there. And when they set it up, there was something called a ballast. Now, a ballast balances the base of whatever the object is. The issue was somebody didn't balance it correctly. Somebody running on no sleep, running on fumes, misbalanced it. She got on top of it in the rafters to work the top of the neck, because all you see is this part of the neck down, and she's working this thing on top. Bill Force is working the thing on top, and it looks like it's pulsating and moving. Well, it shifted, and Michiko got thrown off, holding on to the top of this the neck of this torso, 24 foot to the concrete floor. And then she went to the hospital. The lady's lucky that she didn't get killed. She spent some time in the hospital, but she fully recovered, went back to work on the film, all as well. But let me tell you something. All could not have been fucking well if that would have went worse than the way it did.
Now, Blake, one thing that I've done a lot of research on, and like actors and actresses, even in the indie circuit, are so privileged to have. Back in the 80s, there was no, I mean, there was no safety control. There was no, hey, you can only work X amount of hours. There was no one overseeing things like that to make sure it was safe.
Well, I mean, there was, but there was also things were a bit more laid back on some of the lower budget productions. Like certainly when they did the Junkyard, Mick, of course, is responsible in a huge, large part for that. The way that looks, and he storyboarded it and everything. I've actually got the original storyboards on it, but he was only able to stack them so high in places because of the risk. The issue with it is the Junkyard was at the LA City Dump. That's what those grounds originally were. So it was a junkyard, a car graveyard, as for lack of a better word. But before that, in reality, it was a dump that was opened in the early 1900s. And the issue with it is it's in, that particular area is known for earthquakes. It's on a fault line.
Ooh.
So one weekend, and I did tell this slight story the last time we met, you and I, Mick goes in on a weekend to take photos, and he gets up in something called a cherry picker because he wants to get the whole grand scene of this car junkyard that was basically, it was like a car junkyard on Earth. It was like the whole Earth planet, because when they pull out of that sequence, you see the world. Like you see a big round opening, and you can hear Kincaid, Ken Sagos' character Kincaid screaming, "Freddy's back!" So when they pull out of that shot, you see it's the whole world that they're in. They're trapped in a junkyard world. So he gets up there to take pictures, and he gets up there. He's about 100 foot in the air, and then there is an aftershock from a previous quake. It's just a tremor. But one of the interesting features about a cherry picker is when something like that happens, the power shuts off for protection. And when it shut off, Mick was not on the ground. Mick was up in the cherry picker when the power got cut to this. So he's trapped 100 foot in the air with a camera, probably thinking, why in the fuck did I do this? But so he has to get on the neck of it. The neck, that's what I call it. The neck that the big arm, the big cherry picker itself, and slide down. He said, by the time I made it to the bottom, there's a fucking grease stain and oil stains all over down the middle of my clothes. But I got out of it in one piece and got the pictures. And then as luck would have it, several years later in '94, the Northridge earthquake happened while they were filming Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He had those photos in the storage room, and they got destroyed, and he was never able to get them. I said, so you went up there and risked your life all to lose these pictures in an earthquake, 6 years later. And he was like, well, when you put it like that, I said, well, how the hell else are you supposed to put it? But that's just one thing I've done working on that book. And I mean, I'm known the world over as being the co-author on that, but that was actually the third book that I had done. And it was the first one I did with someone else. And it's the first nonfiction book because I had done so many other books that were fiction. I figured how cool it'd be to take, a Nightmare on Elm Street film and turn it into a making of book, but make it all nonfiction.
Hmm.
So people can really see what a real nightmare it was to make this movie. No pun intended on that. Let's let them see what it's like, and it informs filmmakers. I really think it does. It gives them an idea of some of the adversity, the obstacles, the challenges, and the successes they can face making a film. That film was at the time one of the highest grossing. I believe Nightmare 4 broke the record at the time for independent films sweeping the box office. It beat out Platoon.
And Platoon
No
was
small
huge.
feat,
Yeah.
and it made almost $50 million on a budget that was around 6 to 8, depending on who you ask. So, which at the time that was still tiny. I mean, 50 million in profit or whatever is still tiny. But I mean, it made some noise, and then after that, the merchandising craze hit. You talked about it yourself. You had the figures. I have the big pull. I have a
Yes.
prototype of the original pull string doll that still works, an original prototype. And I mean, you had the gloves, the little toy
I
gloves,
mean,
the mask, the squirting heads, all that stuff. Yeah,
Freddy Krueger was fucking huge. I'm gonna tell you when it was fucking huge. Freddy Krueger was huge, like that late. I want to say like 88 to about 95. Freddy
yeah.
Krueger was fucking huge, and like I was born in 82, so I came in right when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I hit that Freddy Krueger phase. I had the figurines, the toys, the gloves. Every kid wanted to be Freddy Krueger for Halloween. Like,
Every kid still wants to be Freddy Krueger. I'm
yes.
not even going to lie to you. It's still something that's so huge, and you don't realize it. You don't realize how huge it's going to be, when you're doing it. And that's
But
one of the things that Mick said. He's like, I mean, we knew it was big because when he started working on it, they were already up to the third one. But it swept the box office, and then just a few weeks later, they had already green-lit a sequel for the script for 5, and 4 was still playing at the theaters. That
But
tells
if you
you
think
that New Line was aware of the hit that they had.
but if you think about the big three, that's Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason, right? Freddy was, I mean, they all were out in that same run. Freddy was pop culture. He was part of pop culture. He was mainstream. Yeah, people watch Halloween, knew about Michael Myers, but there was something about Freddy Krueger. I mean, that was huge. I mean, they had a video game, lunchboxes,
Yeah.
T-shirts, everything.
Check out the wall behind me. Freddy's the first face. You got Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, and Michael. I
Yep.
mean, still, even now, and these were gifts. These were gifts we got for Christmas. I mean, these posters up here. So again,
Mhm.
it's like I will never be able to escape Freddy. I've done 2 other books that were Freddy, and again, the one Razor's Edge was the one that I was inducted. They knew they played a trick on me, so everybody there knew I was getting inducted, but me. I was like, hardy fucking har. Okay, so I get in there, and then they're like, "Oh, you're going to be inducted." So I got to get up there with Lon Chaney's family, Carpenters, Karloffs, with George Wilbur, who was, more for my money, one of the
Nice.
best Michael Myers out there,
Yes.
Jim
Yes.
Winburn, Mick Strawn, Doug Stewart from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Alien Resurrection, Nick Benson from The Blob and Nightmare 4, and I got inducted with them. My second novel gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, and there's still a copy that sits there in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I cannot fathom that me doing that would allow me to. I'm a Hall of Fame horror author. I mean, I don't know many people that have that and could say that
Pretty fucking awesome.
that early on in their career. And of course, that book, which you may or may not have seen, that is Razor's Edge. Very, very one of the most popular books I think that is probably one of the most popular nightmare books to come out. And it deals with Freddy's origin story, everything that happened up to his death. Because I always
Nice.
said I loved the films and I still love them, but I felt like the fans always wanted a deeper dive into that backstory of his, which we got pieces of in 4, 5. Freddy's dead. Obviously, you meet Catherine, who is the daughter. If you haven't watched it, spoiler alert:
Yeah.
Freddy has a daughter and he had a wife. So that's a little bit more of that backstory. But the story I told was something that had never been done in print before, like that. I actually gave names and causes of death, and walked through the original 20 Elm Street kids that Freddy killed
That's
from
fucking amazing.
1966 until 1971. Oh, we got Dark House Entertainment is in the house. So that is a company that I'm working for. I'm working on a fan film right now called Blake's Crazy Nightmare. That is about my work in the Nightmare on Elm Street mythos, but it's a horror film. And it's a return to a darker, more sinister Freddy, because Dark House is like me. They love Freddy from part 1 and 2, especially the makeup on part 2.
Part two is amazing.
That's that
Yes.
they wanted a darker, less, no, no real humor. I mean, what little humor there will probably be what they call gallows humor, born out of discomfort. Like those lines, your big break in TV, or like we talked about with
Yeah.
Will, have a seat. Like there will be some very little humor, but it will be Freddy style humor. But this film, this whole year I've spent, with the crew working on it, shooting scenes. The trailer I sent you, which I know
Mhm.
you watched, I know you
Yes.
saw it,
Hmm.
and your thoughts. I want to hear it. Come on, let's hear it.
It looked absolutely great, man. It absolutely great.
And I
And
take no credit.
and
I did an acting job, but
mhm.
Dark House, David Brandon, the director and writer of that film, has a fucking vision, man. And when he brought that vision to me and talked to me, and I read the script, I was like, this is absolutely terrifying. I don't know that I really want to do this. And that is what made me want to do it, is the fact that it did give me pause,
Mhm.
because I'm a fan like you, and like a lot of others, we love the original first one, second one. Those two established that darker nature of Freddy before he became in 3 and 4 a little bit more of a comedian,
Yes, he had
which
got to start
happens.
getting a little more of a personality. Yes.
Yeah, he had a little bit more of a personality, but Dark House's their idea with this is just it's unlike anything I've ever read, and I was given carte blanche on a lot of things. A lot of people don't know this, but I'm a classically trained actor, Shakespearean, and I was given free reign on script. Like as far as my dialogue, I mean, there were some basic ideas, but I was told by the crew and the director, improvise your ass off. You're damn good at it. And the reason they know I'm good at it is because they've seen my work in other films. And I mean,
Mhm.
Dark House just even said here just now, it's going to be breathtaking to bring on a whole new layer of fear. I can't argue with that. And the music, they let me score it. So that music you heard in the trailer is my music.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, Borderlands. And I got to actually they set up a contract that I got to be able to score a good portion of the film. There's going to be 5 to 8 scores of mine featured in that. Plus, they're doing an album, a Blake's Crazy Nightmare, the album. They're
Oh,
actually fronting
and I got a
getting an
chance
album
to
put out.
and I got a chance to listen to your stuff. I mean, not only you're a great author, but you're also an amazing musician.
Well,
Now,
thank you.
but
Thank
I do
you.
have a question though. You're welcome. I do have a question though. Being such a big horror fan, being such a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan,
Mhm.
when you got the opportunity to get together with Mitch to put this book together, and now you're talking to Robert England and you're talking to cast and crew, how fucking exciting was that?
It was real exciting. There are things. I have to tell you, I consider Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. They're my family. um, you know, Along with Dark House, of course. Dark House has been with me since the very beginning of my coming back into acting, and I keep a very small group of friends, and it just so happens that with some of them, I get to go do shows with them, and do cons, and we get to all be there together. And I tell you, the most breathtaking thing for me, as far as Nightmare 4 goes, besides the friendships I made with Nick Benson and Mick Strawn and everyone else on the film, is I got to be friends. I was introduced by Nick to Bill Forsh. Now Bill Forsh did Freddy's makeup application on 4. He did the stunt mask application for Rick Barker. He did CJ Graham's Jason mask in Jason Lives. He worked on Ghostbusters too. Incredible pedigree. Slaughterhouse Rock, The Terror Within, you know, a lot of those great 80s slashers, you know, and stuff like that. And getting to work with him, Bill kept some things from that set, you know, props and things. And one of the things he sent me when I was doing research for Behind the Screams was he sent me the last surviving piece of Robert's Freddy Krueger sweater from that sequence where his chest was torn apart. He kept the piece
Nice.
and he sent all that to me along with the chain and the script. So I have all of that right here.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that chain right there, that's the one Tuesday night is swinging in front of her when Freddy says Elm Street's last brat, farewell. How sweet, fresh meat. That's the chain.
Oh, I love it. Oh, yes.
And then the script, of course, I mean, you can see it's dated May 12th of 1988. This is the third draft. And in this one, Kristen lives for almost the whole film. Completely changes everything. Nobody has ever got to thumb through this. I take it with me to the cons, and I've read the whole thing, but nobody else has ever opened it up and read it outside of those working on the set. So Bill was working for XFX, and then Mick signed this, and Nick Benson signed this, and this is April 12th of '88. This is the revised third draft. So it's still bound with the original Brads on the side. I mean, this has been in.
It's fucking badass, man.
It,
And you're
it
huge.
is.
And you're a huge Nightmare on Elm Street collector too. I mean, you have some good shit in your collection, man.
I would hope so. So I've got the screen use stunt mask, Nightmare One. So this was worn by Tony Caesar. Tony Caesar was doubling at the time for Robert, and also was working across the street the daytime on Ghostbusters. He was inside the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suit.
Okay.
So in this sequence, he puts this on because Robert is off somewhere doing another sequence, and in this sequence, Freddy is in the basement with Nancy, and Nancy throws gasoline on him, lights him on fire, and then she runs up the stairs. Well, he runs up after her. She jerks the door open and hits him in the face, and down the stairs he goes. This is that mask. Still burnt, all to hell.
And what is it made out of?
It is made of foam latex.
Okay.
Because it had to be an easy slip on. You can tell as old as it is, it's starting to age.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to chemically treat my hands and everything before I use this. And it even still has the teeth in
Nice.
it. But yeah, that's just one of the things I have. I've also got a glove that's screen used too, that I keep inside here that's signed by everybody. So I did a book signing and they got together and they signed it with me on my birthday. I don't usually take it out, but for your show, I'll take it out.
I appreciate it.
And it is the real deal.
Love it.
And you can actually see where they all signed it. So Robert signed the third knuckle. First knuckle was signed by Amanda Wiss. Second knuckle was signed by Ricky Dean Logan, who was Carlos, the kid with the hearing aid in Freddy's Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Then fourth knuckle is Andres Jones. So that's Rick. That's Alice's brother. Danny Hassel signed the back plate. Lisa Wilcox signed the back plate, and Mick Strawn signed it. And then I've got a couple of other ones that Nick Benson signed as well. But yeah, I mean, that is the.
Oh, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, and it's you know, I've had some people, you know, ask to buy this thing, and I can't part with it right now.
Gotta hold on to it.
No,
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to share a shout out to Dark House Entertainment. Listen, I appreciate you coming on and supporting us, and I'm definitely looking forward to your film. Keep up the good work, guys.
They're very, you know, I don't know they appreciate that. Dark House has been amazing. So I've done two other projects with them. So I scored a project called The Treat. I did not star in that. I scored it and produced it. It's a short film, and then I starred in, alongside J.R. Folks, a short called The Sacrifice, in which I'm killed. That was actually done at a live signing I had at an event in town. So yeah, I got to score that one and score the Treat as well. So Dark House has been very good to me. They also have a branch that represents me, so gets me into the cons.
Okay.
So my agent, who is an offshoot of Dark House, you know, works with them, gets me into the shows, pitches me out to other cons so that I can get into those. Thus far, I've probably been to, oh goodness, several dozen cons, and I'm very picky about the ones I do, because the nature of my work, being a composer and being an actor, is I have to be on set a lot, so I don't get to do as many as I'd like. I might get to do 10 to 12 a year, and then some
That's my
in-store
goal.
signings.
Yeah, that's my
Um,
goal.
yeah,
Now,
so it's just it's limiting, but they're very good to me and they back me and support me on all that. So Dark House always right there.
Dark House. Now, Blake, we talked a little bit yesterday, and I told you about the video that I have, which is the 5 things I hate about horror conventions.
I
And
did not get. I couldn't find it to
you,
watch
you,
it.
you couldn't find it? Oh, I'll
No,
send
I
it to you.
tried.
I'll send it to you.
I
All right.
looked.
So let's break it down. What are 3 things that you dislike about horror conventions?
I mean, I can't say I dislike anything except for when they're to. I mean, I've felt the same way that Justin Rhodes. Shout out Justin. I know you're watching. Um, like him, his thing. My thing I hate about him is they end.
Oh, but you don't think that they're giving like a lot of horror conventions are getting way too overcrowded? Like it's it's not even fun for someone who's a visitor or I mean who's I mean someone who's paying to try to and you can't even move, you can't even get to the and I also even feel bad for the vendors because a lot of the vendors don't get that much attention because the lines are so long for the guests.
I guess I've not experienced. I've experienced them being crowded. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. I mean, the last big one I did, I mean, CreepyCon was in Knoxville, and that was my line for both days. I mean, there were times my line was 3 or 4 hours long. And it was
that's
just
great.
I would have security go and run and get me a drink, or they'd watch the table while I went to the bathroom or went to stretch my legs, and I'd come back. But I mean, off and on. I mean, and my manager, my agent was there. Uh, and it was just like, whoa. But I mean, I've never felt, I mean, they're crowded, yes, but I've never felt like that the ones I've done are too crowded. And I've done a lot of them. I think it just depends on what days, the times.
Well,
Because
Dark House,
a lot of people, what did Dark House say? I can't see it.
they actually said one that's on my top 5, which is I don't like seeing people there with a booth that has nothing to do with horror. That is on my list.
Oh,
I
is it?
I can't stand people who have booths and they're selling trinkets or little glass pieces of glass or something. It has absolutely nothing to do with horror. And I've seen that more and more in horror conventions now that there's people selling candy and stuff. It has absolutely nothing to do with horror.
I don't know about you, but I get hungry during those shows. I want some damn candy.
Listen, but here's something else too. I feel like horror conventions also should have better. A lot of them should have better food options. Some majority of them have no food options at all, and some they have overpriced like microwave food, pretty much. I,
I guess it's just because I've never experienced that at any of the ones I've done. I mean, all the ones I've done, what I've seen for food options, chicken tenders, fries, cheeseburgers. I've seen
yeah,
teriyaki chicken, salads, sandwiches, burritos, but it's good stuff. I mean, this is stuff I would eat on set, in between takes. I mean, I've never had that issue with any convention about any of it. I've had nothing but the best experiences, and that's why I always try to recommend them to everyone. It's something you should
you
do, at
never deal
least
with the.
one.
I agree. Now, have you dealt with the body odor
No.
issue? You never smelled
Uh-uh.
the odor in there?
No, and see, one of the things I do is also because of, especially, I mean, I did it before the pandemic, but after the pandemic, I kept Lysol wipes and hand sanitizer and stuff. So I've always got, no, 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 no. I've always got cleaning stuff because I mean, I've also got fans that like to come up and they like to
That stuff.
they'll
Yeah.
pick up a book or they'll want to shake my hand. And it's nothing against them. It's just, I think everybody deserves the right to be safe, So I guess it's because I just don't, I just
Okay.
You'd be surprised, even me being who I am and what I do, there are people that don't always get very close to me. They'll want to like reach in and take a picture. Um, but it's like they're nervous. And I'm like, the first thing you need to do, come to the table and talk to me.
Mhm.
You don't, I'm not, if you want to buy an autograph or buy a movie I've done or buy, whatever, that's fine too. Absolutely. But I'm there to see you. If you do something like that, that's just an added bonus. I mean, I
Yeah.
appreciate it because it helps my career, and I mean it helps me with my living, and doing what I do. That's why I do so many of them, is to meet the fans and make sure that I've got product available to them, because sometimes they wouldn't be able to see me any other time unless I was doing a private signing, which I do on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
But and yeah, Dark House is right. We're used to
Dark House
smelling
Three.
the blood on the gloves. With the blood that we use on these films, some of it, believe it or not, in order for me to have some that I can, for some sequences, I have to put some in my mouth, like if I'm getting
Oh,
killed or I'm getting whatever, and it tastes like peppermint. So it's got a
really?
strong smell, which is not unpleasant to taste, but it overpowers the senses. So Dark House was privy to another film that I did. Called He Comes to Kill. I did, which I think you said you saw that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No, there's a sequence that I had to have blood in my mouth, and that blood had a very strong pepperminty kind of odor to it and taste. And I think that's so you wouldn't gag on it. Now, of course, I of course ham it up, and I'm like, oh my god, because I'm an actor. That's what I do. So
Yeah.
I'm in there gushing it out. And there was one spot where I was going to actually spit the blood as my throat was cut into the actor standing over me's face. But I decided we're post pandemic here.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll just turn my head and kind of cock it to the side. And as part of a death rattle, spit it out, onto the floor or whatever it was. And, so yeah, it's the blood is very strong, and a lot of the effects stuff, the effects makeups and stuff, like some of the prosthetics I have to get put on me, you smell the glue from that.
Oh, I bet because yeah, I mean, I can imagine you're smelling that glue
So when
from
I
the
had a
adhesive.
prosthetic piece put on my throat, I had a knife in that film jammed through my throat to come out. And when it was put through, the prosthetic they put on essentially was glued on me. And when it had to be put on and adjusted, my chest hair was ripped out in places. That is
Jeez.
not a comfortable fucking feeling.
I bet you that fucking hurt.
Yeah, it didn't feel good at all. Um, and one of the producers on the film, um, uh, that I mentioned earlier, David Brandon, he was there and he saw what I had to go through. And I mean, I was on
Mm,
set for almost 7 hours
jeez.
with that shit on me.
You were telling me the story last night about Robert Englund and that fucking mask shit that he had on his face. It was fucking breaking him out.
Yes, yes. And the reason it did that is because the glue they use on Robert is the medical grade adhesive that they use to apply colostomy bags. So Robert actually said in his book, Hollywood Monster, that actually vilifies what the critics said, that I'm a real shithead. Ha ha ha. Right? About the medical grade colostomy bag adhesive. But that's the property of that adhesive, that glue. When it's put on your face, it's not going to go anywhere for a while. And there were times after he wrapped, he had been in makeup for 12 to 16 hours. First thing he wants to do is get this shit off his face. The second thing he wants to do is get something to eat. Wouldn't you? And you
Yeah.
can't eat with that shit on you. So, trying to get it off in places instead of using certain chemicals, he got really antsy towards the earlier nightmares. Um, oh my goodness, we got things coming in now. I could see them on the
Yes.
side, but
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's sort of what happened. Is his face would break out, and he said he would get little cuts around the corners of his eyes. Okay, so you're gonna
Okay.
have to, because I can't see
All
who
right.
popped in,
So
Travis.
we have Shane Bennett, and the
Hey,
question is,
Shane.
hey, Blake and Travis, question for the both. Out of the entire series, what is your favorite Freddy kill scene? And we actually discussed this last night, but Blake, you can go first.
Well, I appreciate it. First, I want to give a shout out to Shane. Shane is a very loyal fan. He owns every one of my books and has seen me at multiple cons. So, thank you, Shane.
Shane.
We met at several different ones. I believe we met at in Gatlinburg on one, and then we met in Knoxville, Pigeon Forge for another. So I've been all over, and he has, I mean, written reviews, and I think literally he has almost every book I've ever done. So thank you again, Shane, and thank you for tuning in. And please be sure to
Thanks for
subscribe,
tuning in,
because
Shane.
horror
Yes.
horror horror, horror realm show is that one. I love it. So
Thank you.
out
Thank
of
you.
this out of the series, my favorite kill scene. That's really difficult to say, honestly, because depending on the mood I'm in, that list might change. Oh, where did I go? Okay, there I am.
There you go.
Where he gets pulled into the bed, and then the bed basically vomits him out.
I
It's
mean, that's the obvious
disgusting.
one. I mean, that's the obvious favorite kill, right, for
I
everybody.
think my buddy Ira Hyden's kill is probably really my true favorite. He was in the wheelchair as Will Stanton, and the whole banter. Like I said today, that would not hold water. It's the chair for you, kid. You
Yes,
could not say that now. You couldn't
yes,
even joke about it, and I
no.
get it because things were different then. But that kill, because you can hear the blades go in and squelch,
Hmm.
and it's sickening. Ugh. It's just
Yeah,
it's a sickening sound.
the
But
one for me was the teacher's pet girl who got sucked in. I mean, that one,
Sheila Kopecky,
Sheila.
yes, yeah, Toy
Yes, that
Newkirk, yeah,
was
she's wonderful.
yes, that was pretty fucked up. I mean, that was a pretty fucked up kill.
Oh, Joe jumped in, so I do want to give a shout out to Joe. Joe
Yep,
Collins
Joe.
um, is actually the writer of a dark fantasy that I've got a role in. That he's getting ready to get things together to start production on that. It's called Realms, and I play a villain in this. I play like a villainous cop, so I'm loving it.
Nice.
But he's a big Freddy fan too, and I'm actually going to get to score that film. So he's a great writer. Again, another person I've met in my journey as a professional, another screenwriter, incredible visionary. He and David of Dark House are two peas in a pod. I mean, they have such a unique visionary style, and I'm just looking forward to, Blake's Crazy Nightmare, and then when that's finished, when Joe gets ready to do Realms, I'm there. I'm there. I'm ready for it.
Well, listen, when you guys get that finished, man, I'll make sure I get a screener, and I would love to have the whole team on to discuss it.
Oh, for Blake's Crazy Nightmare?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure Dark House can help make that happen. Oh, Joe says, I think Welcome to Prime Time was by far the most iconic. Well, originally, that line was, "You're on television now, Jennifer." Ha ha ha. Robert said, "There's too many syllables. There's too many words. This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to Prime Time, bitch." And Chuck Russell said, "Cut. Beautiful. Print it." And I was like, that was Robert's coinage. That whole sequence was Robert's coinage. And I loved it. What fan didn't love that?
That was an
Honestly.
amazing. It was amazing. It was
And I mean, obviously, it left a lasting imprint on Lawrence Fishburne because he bursts in the door
exactly.
and sees that body hanging out of the television. And I was like, oh, damn. But yeah, so I make sure and cover her family in the Razor's Edge book because she actually has a sibling that was a victim of Freddy's early on. Another reason why he was mobbed and killed by those parents. Because,
All right. So Blake, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yes.
Give me your top 5 Nightmare on Elm Street final girls or guys or
I
guys.
keep telling you can't do this shit to me. Okay. All right. Okay. So Joe says, let's not forget the Roach Motel. Yes,
Yeah.
that was trippy as all hell. I agree. You could check in, but you can't check out. I mean, again with that, it's just perfect comedic timing and just
Classic.
enough. Yeah. So top 5 final girls. Well, obviously Nancy, the original. She
Number one.
survived, in part 1. Now, granted, if you haven't seen part 3, spoiler, Nancy don't make it in that one. Sad but true.
Mhm.
But so definitely Nancy. I really liked Jesse, actually, Mark Patton's character from part 2. I mean, it was the first time they didn't know at the time it was going to be a series, so they departed a bit from the Rules West set with Nightmare 1. But having a final boy,
Yeah.
that whole being the new kid in town, starting school, moving into a house that has such a sinister history. You got a bad relationship with your father. You're confused about, you're being a teenager and shit. And it's just there's a lot going on there. And I think Freddie really preyed on him a lot, and that's what makes that film so dark. Is because he uses Jesse. I mean, obviously, I mean, I need you, Jesse. We got special work to do here, you and me. And then
Mm-hmm.
you've got the body, I've got the brain, and
Brains.
and this
Yep.
is and it just that to me, it hadn't been done. There hadn't been a final. There's not very many final boys, as I call them.
Yeah. I come guys. Yeah.
Which I mean, honestly, Mark Patton has got an amazing scream, and Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, he's right up there. I mean, I love him dearly. He's a good friend, and he's been a very supportive of my convention journey and the music stuff too. And it just so he's definitely up there. Alice,
Okay.
Alice, definitely.
Number
Um,
three.
yeah, yeah, she's number three because she's interesting because she survives two films. And then you don't know what the hell happens to her unless you read the comics, the Innovation comics, Nightmares on Elm Street. So that continues there. And then there's been some things written later, like Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, the Nightmare Warriors, and
I have that.
those
Yep.
books like that. So that continues a bit there. But she survives two films. She's the only one I've seen survive two films. Kristen would be my next one because in three she survives. Spoiler, four she don't make it, but she gives it a good college try, as I call it. Definitely. And then Maggie. I mean, what a fucked up stigma to have Freddy as your dad.
That is
What?
pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, she had to overcome tremendous adversity. Not to mention the fact that she was put up for adoption after all that, which I mean, I chronicled that in depth in the book, and it was hard on her and hard on everyone else. And she's rediscovering who she is, and then Freddie tries to taunt her at the end. It's like, put it on. It's in your blood, trying to get her to do what she does. And he's foul. He's such a piece of shit, but you love him.
But he's
What
my.
is
I mean, he's definitely my favorite horror character. But other thing was, speaking of which, about Final Girls, Nancy is such a great Final Girl, and when I see rankings and so forth for Final Girls, I feel like Nancy doesn't get as much love as she should. I mean, Nancy is an amazing Final Girl.
I guess it just depends on how you see the list and how many films are included. Because obviously, like with Scream, Sidney Prescott has survived all of them. So
Correct.
when you put her against Nightmare on Elm Street, the final girl thing, I mean, that kind of knocks it out because she
Warrior,
survived
of
all of
course.
these. But I mean, and that's fine. But for me, Nightmare on Elm Street will always be number one to me. I mean, it has been very, 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 very good to me. The fans have been very good to me. Speaking of, Shane just said something. What is? I'm trying to see it. I can't
I
see it too well.
definitely
Can you?
own all your books. Highly recommend it for those watching that haven't read Blake's work. But
Thank
Blake's
you
work is
so
great.
much. Thank you so much. I really see. This is another reason why I love doing these cons is because the fans they love they love what I do, but I love being with them and spending time with them and seeing how these books impact them. I never thought that all of this stuff would end up being something that resonated with fans like that. And I mean, this one is actually a short one I did. This one's called Whispers in the Woods, and nobody lives in this one. I'll go ahead and break it. This is the most disturbing and probably fucked up book I've ever written in my life. Nobody lives in this. It's fucking horrifying. What is that Joe says? Second that,
Okay.
Blake's
Joe
books
says,
are
I,
chef's kiss. Thank you. Again, there's just such I don't know if I can live up to that much hype, but I appreciate it. I really do.
and
that's
Joe
that's
also
beautiful.
said, I really like Maggie's story and wish it was
Delved into
delved
further in film.
into
I see
further.
it. Yeah.
And Nancy's uh, definitely should have got all the love. Her triumph over Freddy at the end of part one triumph. I agree. Nancy should
Oh,
be given a lot more love.
absolutely, 100%. She was, I mean, for Nightmare on Elm Street, she was the first final girl for that series. And I mean, she kicked Freddy's ass. And you know how
Yeah.
she did it? She told him he was nothing.
Yes.
You're nothing. You're shit. And I was like, I don't know many people that would say that to anybody, as much less somebody that just popped up out of your bed and is trying to, add you to the list of bodies in the basement. I mean, I would have never thought her to stand up like that. But that shows the content and quality of her character, and that's something I get behind. I took a college course. Shout out to Dr. Mazzoni from Tennessee State University. It's my alumni. That's where that's where I went to school. He had a course I took, English. It was an upper level elective called Men, Women, and Chainsaws: Gender Roles in the Modern Horror Film.
Cool.
Now that was one hell of a college course, and of course we covered Laurie Strode, the original Halloween. We covered Nightmare on Elm Street. We covered Silence of the Lambs, with Clarice, that kind of thing. So it was amazing. So that's what I'm saying is this has influenced so much. All over. If we go a little bit over, I'm fine with that, Travis, because I
Okay.
know you
Yeah.
still got other stuff
Yeah.
to talk about.
Okay. So I do have one other question to ask you, and
Sure.
this is the big key question that everybody's been asking about Nightmare on Elm Street,
Okay.
the reboot. Who would you like to see play Freddy Krueger? We know it's not going to be Robert Englund. Who is there an actor out there that you were like, I think they would make a great Freddy Krueger?
There is, and I've talked about the actor that I think would be good to fill in for Freddy before. I think I've done a few shows with him, and we're acquaintances on Facebook. Hoping here soon to take my wife to meet him. Doug Jones, who Abe
Okay.
Sapien from Hellboy, the fish man in The Shape of
Yes.
Water.
Shape of Water. Yes.
He was Billy Butcherson in Hocus Pocus. He was the one clown that got punched by Oswald Cobblepot in Batman Returns. Great speech, Oswald. My name's not Oswald.
Yes.
He's and then of course Pan's Labyrinth. He's got that otherworldly shape
Built and yes.
when he acts, and he's amazing. And what makes him so powerful is he doesn't have dialogue as much, like Sapien he does, but like in The Shape of Water, that's all facial expressions coming through that makeup. And I really think that with the right makeup and the right glove and everything, the right costuming for him, he would make a hell of a Freddy Krueger. I really, really could imagine with his really long arms, coming down a hallway and grabbing somebody, enveloping them and pulling them in. How hellish would that be?
And I've met him before at a
Have
con,
you?
and yeah, and like you're telling me, I have a Shape of Water. I love that movie. A Funko Pop that I had him autographed, and like now that you said that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I never thought of that. That is because I've heard of people been saying, rumors, Kevin Bacon, Bill Skarsgård,
They could
uh,
work. They very much could work. And I love those
yeah,
actors. Bill is amazing. And Kevin is obviously, I mean, he's done Star of Echoes. He was in the first Friday the 13th. He was in Hollow Man. He can do it. He can do horror, and he's damn good at it. And he's an incredible musician. So, I mean, he's got a lot going for him, too. But for me, something about Doug, like when I saw Doug in Hocus Pocus come out of the grave like he did, even though the makeup was kind of, supposed to be more kind of toned down because it's a kid's movie. I was like that attitude, that essence that he plays. And then of course in Pan's Labyrinth, he's evil, man.
yeah,
He could do that. He could take himself there because he's a a classically trained actor and mime, and he's done all that kind of artistry, and he'd be amazing, I think. And I want to be I'm hoping that I'm the first that said it because I said it on an interview that I
you
did
are
once before.
you're absolutely the first one who's ever said that.
I did want to show you these while we're talking about stuff because I don't show these to everybody, but since you're so cool, I want to show them
We
to
got
you. So these are from the set of Nightmare 4. Bill actually shot these. Have never been seen before today. You can actually see the clapperboard. I'll move a little closer for you. He had these blown up for me. You can actually see the chains and the clapperboard, right?
yeah.
And then he sent me one other one. This is where the sweater comes from. This is also right from the day that his parents visited him on set. Robert's parents, came to see him. And these have been in his collection for years. Taken from Polaroids. So
So we got two more comments.
okay. Sure.
This comes from Joe. Doesn't need a reboot though. We already got one and it was 50-50. I feel it should be a continuation. Even without Robert Englund, it could work better than a reboot. I 100% agree. I do not want a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street, but if there was going to be one, I don't know. I don't know. I think Nightmare on Elm Street is one of those movies that's okay with being not rebooted.
Right, and I would have to agree with you. I mean, obviously we have an actor, that's playing Freddy in this film, and he is not Robert Englund, of course, but Robert did such an indelible job with that, and that character it's so much a part of him, and he's so much a part of that character. But I think that he wants the torch to be passed on, for lack of a better. That's a really morbid pun. The
Yeah.
torch, ha ha ha! Right? But he wanted that to be passed on to someone else, and I would like to see a continuation. I don't think that the original story needs to be told again, but I do think that we can take liberties with things. Speaking of taking liberties, I don't show it often, but I actually have the hero glove from the new Nightmare on Elm Street fan film that I'm a part
Ooh.
of. I have it here. Now, if you look at this one is completely different. And look at the hinges. Look how it folds and it springs. My contribution was I wanted chunks taken out of the blades, and you can actually kind of see that here. There's chunks taken out of them.
Now, who made this?
Josh Clark, Flaming Creations. Big shout out to them. So they make a lot of. They actually made 2 gloves for the film. They made this one, which is the hero glove, which still has the blood on it. Still got the blood, and when you flex it, that sound is
nice.
I mean, you just want to just put one of these on yourself. So my contribution was I wanted the back plate darker, and I wanted the blades to have chunks taken out of them. I wanted it to look nasty.
Mm-hmm. And it
does. It does. But he makes the replicas I take with me to the show. So he's made several for me, including a part 4, actually, which I know you love part 4, don't you?
I love part 3. Part 3 and part 1 are my 1 and 2.
Okay. Well, do you like? I mean, is there any other ones that you like besides
part 4,
that?
Yeah, no. Part 4, part 2, they're in my top 5.
There's your part 4. All the way down to the red paint and the solder spills, the aging of the glove, the blades.
I love it, man.
I've got 7 or 8 of these over here. I've got a Freddy's Dead signed by Tom Arnold, oddly enough.
I've actually met Tom Arnold at the New Jersey Con, and I had him sign my Freddy's Dead poster.
Did you?
Yeah, nice guy.
I've got this one as another Freddy's Dead. It's a secondary hero, but you could tell the blades on these are thick, man.
Yeah, this is gonna do some damage.
You said part 1, so I've got a good go between. So here we go. There's your part 1/part 2. Dead giveaway on that is the safety pin. But the work he did on these is just amazing. And if you look at the blades, they're the real deal.
So everybody's saying William Dafoe as Freddy.
I could see that. I actually could see him more as the Joker. I'd love to see him as the Joker.
William Dafoe's a Joker. I never thought of that. He kind of looks like the Joker.
Don't tell him I said that. But yeah, I mean, I could see that. I definitely could absolutely see that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, outside of the music and working with Dark House, getting ready to work with Joe on Realms, after Dark House's film, after we wrap on that. And then all these books. I actually just took a break. I didn't write a new book this year. I edited somebody else's book this year. So lovely author named Alexandria Christensen. This is her. She actually did the cover art too. So I edited this bad boy. Look how thick this thing is.
Wow.
Yeah, nice so cover. I took a break and I edited somebody else's work. It's called Zoe RN versus the Hellhounds. This one is messed up. And that's actually what it's called. And she's like, I want you to have credit because of who you are on the front cover. I said, for your project, you're the main writer. I edited it. She's like, but how many times does, you have a reputation. You're a celebrity. I said, I'm just some asshole.
You're not some asshole right now, Blake.
It is what it is. I work. I do work. So
Blake, where can everyone find you, my friend?
They can find me all over. They can Google me. I'm very easy to find on Google. They can Facebook me. So it's facebook.com/Blake Best Horror. That's my public figure page. I'm getting close to the friend limit on my personal one. Facebook's yelling at me constantly. You're at 5,000. I'm like, okay. So you probably can't really follow me there, but that's Shreddy Krueger 85 is how you find that. It's facebook.com/Shreddy Krueger 85. But yeah, just follow me on my Facebook page. That's my author page because there's no limit to how many people that can follow me there.
And you do have some horror conventions you're going to be a guest at as well.
Yes, I've got a few. I can only announce a couple, but I've got one coming up, Vet City Con. That's going to be in Bowling Green, March 2nd and 3rd. I will be there with Paul Taylor, who was Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgment, Hannah Fierman from VHS and Creep Show, Jake the Snake Roberts, wrestling
nice.
legend, David Delarocco from the
DDT.
Boondock Saints,
Nice.
and Mick Strong is going to be there. Drew Fortier, Butterbean is going to be there. And so many others. Matthew Ashley, lots of great vendors too. So James Stokes from Voorhees Night of the Beast, he played Jason. He's going to be there. So definitely, yeah, that's one coming up. And then I've got a couple other ones. I'll just have to get back to you on those because I have to wait till the convention's announced. That's proper etiquette as far as I'm concerned.
Yes,
Wait for them to announce and then I'll announce.
Perfect. Blake, listen, it's been a blast to have you on, man. You're more than welcome anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. Now, everybody that's watching, take your ass over to Horror Realms page and subscribe. These interviews are amazing. He interviewed Kevin Radzinski, Freddy Do. He's interviewed all these authors, all these musicians, comedians, all people in the horror business, and he's fun. And I like him. He's my new best friend. So
thanks, man. You're my new best friend as well. And what's great too, by the way, if you're in the indie horror scene, I'm the only guy who's really doing this. I'm shining a spotlight on the indie horror scene. Please hit that like, subscribe button, share, comment, all that good shit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you better like and subscribe if you know what's good for you, because if you don't, I can't promise Freddy won't be coming to get you, right? So.
Exactly. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to this edition of Horror Rim Live. I'm going to see you guys next time.
Thank you so much, Travis. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dark House, and everybody else, Shane and Joe. Thank you all.
Joe, Shane, it's been a blast. Thanks all the subscribers and everyone who's viewing. Have a good night.